Time to lock in your 2026. We are back for the first episode of the Newstrength Way podcast in 2026. Nathan and I are going to be taking you through our achievement roadmap. So this is something that we got taught by our coach Dozer, that he teaches one for uses with his team, uses with himself to build the vision, the achievements that he wants to work towards in his life. And we're going to take you through exactly how we do that there. And a little insight for you guys in advance, we're going to be actually doing this with people in person end of January. So if you are interested in coming along to that one, shoot us a message at Newstrength HQ and we'll be able to actually take you through this whole process start to finish. And we're more than happy to welcome you along to that one there. So if this episode resonates with you and you want to have a little bit of a hand on this, then just reach out to us. Nath, welcome back to the show. First one for the year.
Happy New Year, Jacob. I'm very excited to be here and even more excited to have a cracking 2026 and take everyone with us.
How was Christmas?
Excellent.
Excellent. No grazing tables? You dodged them?
Never a grazing table. Nah, dabbled.
All right, so let's. I want to start with the backstory. So obviously we've been working with the team at Geronimo Academy for over a year now, and this was one of the first things that we did with them was mapping out our achievement roadmaps for not only what we wanted to achieve for ourselves, but with the business, and really getting a really solid piece of the vision that we're working towards, and then distilling that down into daily standards, how the milestones that we're going to achieve along the way, and then the rewards that we're going to attach to those things there. Nate, what was your first experience with the like?
What comes to mind when you say that, Jacob, it was the first question of what does success look like when you're 80? And it was so far down the line. And I think that was the one that really hit home for me. And it was not so much what goals are we going to set this next year and our New Year's resolutions. It's what success looks like in 20 years' time, in 30 years' time, and then we reverse engineer from there. So that for me was the biggest thing and the biggest takeaway, and that changed the perspective and the thought patterns, but then it also put everything else we popped down into perspective. It's like, where's it leading to? And obviously I'm pumped to jump into this and take the guys through today and the listeners as they're driving or whatever it is that they're doing through this period where they don't know if it's a Monday, a Wednesday, a Friday or a Saturday. So if you're there and you're listening and you don't know what day it is, it's the perfect time just to absorb this and kick your feet up hopefully and have some leftover ham, and we'll get cracking and we'll take you through something that's genuinely changed Jacob and I's lives.
Yeah, I think one of the key things, and we've discussed this quite extensively with, but not only just the two of us, but with the team, is a lot of the things that we put down in this when we first did it seemed unachievable. And that is the goal too. Like, you want to be putting these things together where it's like, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And some of the pieces on those 1 year goals, like, we can both be pretty transparent that we haven't hit them from a training perspective. Like, we shot high and we went close and we achieved more than what we probably thought we could have in a lot of things, but you might not get every single one of them. But it's the idea, like, and that's where the value on where you're sort of starting is what's that success look like at 80? It's probably going to be hard for a lot of people to do that there, but building back to what's a 3 to 5 year vision for yourself looks like, and that's probably going to be a little bit more tangible for you to get an understanding of where you think you're going in that point there. And then these 1 year goals that we're going to set are going to be feeding who that person is, who that version of yourself is there. And I guess for me, it was definitely like, looking at it, it had to be a bit scary. Like, it had to be a little bit like, I don't know what's actually going to happen of this here. And like, when we put it together, and we'll talk about what the process looks like at the end of it, there, like, when you're looking back at it, is it a little bit uncomfortable going, shit, what happens if I don't do that? What was your takeaway in that sort of process? Like, what did you feel like was the big successes from doing this, and what maybe would have been uncomfortable for you?
The first thing was uncomfortable of not knowing what I wanted in 10 years, where I would think I was like, okay, I'm going in this direction and I have enough certainty, but it was actually, I don't actually know what that looks like. So to sit with that and get comfortable, then to map it out. And then to follow on with that, it was just a bit of permission to dream, where I think you get in your daily rhythms and you see what people are doing around you, and your circles are generally not fixed, but consistent. Like, your circles are quite consistent. So if you don't have anyone kind of pushing what's possible, and like we've said before, and so said, like, what's normalized isn't always normal. So it gave us permission to change things and shift the trajectory. And like you said, it was like some of the things on there, like when we wrote it down, I was like, okay, I'll write it down. Like, I'll go through this process. I'm going to write it down and I'll run as hard as I can at it. And that's something I think you and I are both good at. But if you asked me, I would have said probably not. Like, we probably won't achieve them, but like shoot for the stars, land on the moon. But like the only thing I didn't achieve was the power clean with 140. And that was just the thing I didn't give any attention to. So I didn't deserve to achieve it by any means. But it's just really crazy what can change just with a perspective shift and a framework like this one.
And I think alongside that as well, like, is when it's done and it's out there and you share it with people, it leaves opportunity for other people to jump in and help. Like, if people know, and this is right now, we're doing this with the team as well. We've been going through with the team over the last few weeks, like, what does this look like? We've mapped it out. We're going to do a little bit of refining with it, and it's important. This is why it is valuable to have some people in your corner on this here, and this is why some things that we'll talk about on this, like the permission to dream, but like being challenged of like, is that big enough? Is that actually what you want?
Yeah.
Is going to be an important step in this here, so you can actually know where it is. Like, so we're going to be doing a little bit of tightening that up with the team, so they can be really clear about where they're going in the next year and how they can take that. And then we'll be doing the same thing live when we do this with our members. I believe it's the 28th of January, somewhere around that, whatever that Saturday is.
Yeah.
So it's, you want to have that balance of like, oh, this is like I'm shooting for the moon, but it's like also knowing externally, like sometimes other people are pretty good at nudging you and going, I think you're playing small here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing here, is to have somebody else who's maybe been on that journey in the past, whether it's a coach or somebody who's just sees what you're capable of and can nudge you along to being able to push to that next level when it is something that's possible for you, and you might be just undershooting it a little bit there. And I think there should be that balance of like the things that you are shooting towards that are like the stretch that might be out of reach, and then there's the ones that you are going to achieve, but you don't want to put the goalpost right next to where you are, like where it's a one-step piece either.
Yeah, it has to build belief, not just confirm what you thought was already possible.
Yeah, and that's the point of milestones on the way. Like, and this is when we're going to break it down. And for you guys as well, we will drop a link to what this actually looks like. We've got it on a little format that you'll be able to print out and then go through this at home. But I know most of you guys are probably driving, you're probably at work or something like that while you're listening to us right now. So you're probably not going to be able to go through that, but we will be able to give you guys access to that. If you do want to copy that, show notes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you can just shoot us a message on Instagram with the comment roadmap, and then we'll send it straight through to you as well. So let's kick this off. What areas do we go to when we are looking at this? When we're building this vision, what's the key pieces that we want to start with, Nate?
So we want personal, which is yourself as an individual, and this is health, this is the things that are important to you, essentially. So we have the personal aspect. Then we also have our relationships that come into that as well. Then we have our career, and then we generally have some kind of adventure, living. I just call it living, like LIVN. And we have that component there where it's like we just need to make sure we're living life along the way and we're not too stuck in any category. And I think that's another thing that I really enjoyed about this. It wasn't hyper-focused on one. It was how do these four components contribute to this overarching goal of Nath being a happy, healthy old man that has a lot of experiences and has the money to do what he wants, when he wants, with whom he wants, and they don't have to worry about it underneath him being my kids, their kids, so on and so forth. And then actually reverse engineering that. Yeah.
And I think the first step there, adding to what you just said there, is like building the identities around what that looks like. So if it's talking about the experiences, like the identity might be like in the 5-year piece, it's not necessarily the 5-year goal is to have like ticked all these boxes here. That's going to be part of that, and that's going to be part of the missions along the way. But it's like the identity might be being an adventurer or something like that. That it's like that's where I'm building towards. Or it could be like 40 with abs or whatever that is that's important to you. If your personal one's going to be training related, like fit dad, strong dad, those pieces there, and what does that look like, and how would you wrap that up into an identity? That's where we're going to start. So if the goal is, as you said before, like happy, healthy old man, like what's the feeding back point of that in 5 years? So that's our first piece there. So we're going to take and wrap up around what those areas are for you and what that looks like. So as we said, it's like going to be a personal, like it could be health, in there, it's going to be relationships, like whether that's romantic with your family, whether it's relationships from a educational or like a leverage standpoint of like people who you want to be around and surround yourself with. We're then obviously going to have that, like whether it's the adventure and living side of things there, and then for the career as well. And like we sort of bundle the career and like the whole business as Newstrength into that one piece there, because obviously the more that we do our thing inside of that there, it's going to feed towards it. So if you guys can build your identities around what those things are first, and then from there, when you know what that is, we're going to start setting into the actual 2025 goals. And what are we looking for or 2026 goals rather? We did the 2025 ones.
Yeah, done the 2025 ones, and generally would set the three-year target first.
Yeah, so the 3 year being the identity, the end piece there, what those things are going to look like, and then what's the 1 year there. So what are we sort of looking at when we do set up those things? Where are we going towards? Like the idea is like generally we're going to feed something back from that 3 to 5 years that we're working for, right?
Yeah, exactly. It makes it like with that 3 year vision of what you want. So it might be, it could be anything. But essentially what you want to make sure is that this 1 year goal is feeding that 3 year goal, and that 3 year goal feeds the 5 year vision, and that 5 year vision has been reversed from that 10, 15, 20. Like it is hard to think in that, and it will change and it will adapt as we go, but it needs to have meaning. If it doesn't have meaning, like I was looking at stats towards the end of the year, and it's 92% of New Year's resolutions never actually come to life. So it's 92% of things that are set never actually are reached. And I think it's for many reasons, but one of the main reasons is there isn't really enough attached to a lot of the things, because it's really impressive what people can do when they have no choice but to do it. Like people are very capable, but they're also very good at negotiating things when there isn't enough meaning attached to it. So it's just to highlight and make sure that we're actually on that point, is just be sure that you have meaning in those things and they're meaningful to you as an individual. And then when we have that 3 year vision mapped out of what we want to achieve in those 4 components, then what we can do from there is we can set our ones, and then you can see why they're meaningful as we go down this segment.
Yeah, so I think adding to that is like what it does by adding the meaning to there is like it adds urgency and necessity, because if you're going to set this goal out for in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, or in that vision that you're working towards, if you're not on track to achieve the 2026 goals in this piece here, it's going to have you not on track to then achieve the 3 year vision. And that's where like it adds some urgency, because you go, shit, I need to make this happen this year. Yeah. Because otherwise this next piece is not going to happen there. Yeah. And that's where it's adding that there. And then the necessity is like it has to be, it's the attachment to the vision. If your vision is, for example, like wanting to be a fit dad, but your like goal that's around your health, there's nothing related to it. Yeah. There's no necessity. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and it has to, and to go off that as well, Jake, it's an important point. I feel like we need to drive this home for the listeners, is it has to make you feel something. Like it has to. If it doesn't make you feel something with these goals, whatever you want to call it, with vision, with this achievement roadmap, if you don't feel something around these things you're setting, then you're probably not setting the right things. And if you don't have that, like the whole point of this, us talking into this microphone right now with this achievement roadmap, it's for you to live the life that you want to live on your own terms, that's meaningful for you. And that should feel exciting, somewhat scary, yes, and a few other feelings attached in there, but it should make you have an actual, like, visceral response to this. And if it doesn't, say if you're driving in the car and you're like, I might lose 5 kilos this year, or that could be a good one, or I might do this, or I might do that, I'd challenge the language you're using, and I'd say you're probably having surface conversations with yourself, and actually sit with yourself and think, what do I actually need to change in my life? Like, is it the quality of my relationships? Do I hate my job and I want a new job, but I just haven't had the courage to change that? Do I want to go on this trip with the family, but I thought, you know what? Like, I don't know where we're going to come up with this amount of money, so we just won't worry about it. It's that reverse engineering from that last chapter, like we said before, when you're 80, 90, 100, whatever it is, and it is those last years, the last days, when you look back, you're going to want to wish you made shit happen and it was meaningful to you. So as you go through this process, I think it's important to highlight that, is as we go through and jot things down, they have to mean something. They have to mean something, and have the hard conversation with yourself, because if you don't, you're going to regret not having it, and you're going to have the regret, but you're also going to have no opportunity to change it. And right now you do have the opportunity.
So where do we start to find out if somebody's on the right track of like whether it has meaning. I'd say 5 whys is a probably good exercise that nearly
absolutely.
anyone can do, is like getting started with that. And if you guys are aware of it, then it's going to be just repetition again. But if you're not aware of the 5 whys, essentially it's just asking the question, and let's just spitball this out just for an example, Nate. So it's like, all right, cool. Like, give us one of your goals that you've just set, for example.
Surface?
Yeah, just
5. I want to lose 5 kilos in 2026, Jacob.
So when we get that, like, I'm just going to answer, why do you want to lose 5 kilos in 2026?
I just don't feel that great. So I think 5 kilos would make me feel a bit better.
Why?
When I'm at home, I don't feel great, then I don't show up great as a partner. Don't have the energy to run around with the kids, and it just makes it hard. And I think 5 kilos will help with that.
And so that we don't just loop this one around, essentially, like you're either going to get to a really good, deep, meaningful thing that's going to add the urgency and necessity to do it, because you're going to go, well, this is genuinely going to change my life in doing this thing. Or it's going to get to where it kind of just spins its wheels and just fizzles. And if it gets to the point where it fizzles, it's probably not the right thing.
Yeah.
Or
there's a little honest conversation there that you're not having with yourself, and you need to get past that.
Yeah, you're not willing to actually go there, and if that's the case there, like there's probably where you need to try to figure out how to go there. And then that might change the thing. Like it might change how the thing itself is applied. And you get that like sometimes. Like I know we've had members that have come along and they've come and gone in the past, and they're like, I really want to do this, and I'm excited to train and do this, and then down the road, like, you know what, I just don't care for training anymore. I just don't want to do this. I just want to go surfing. Like surfing makes me feel good. It does this and so on. And really in that phase of their life, maybe training was important to them for where they wanted to go. And then further down, it was like, I just want to just go and do this. And that was the right fit for them. And obviously there's some exploration that they had in that time that meant that was where they wanted to move towards, and that's fine. And like, as long as somebody's being healthy and exercising, I think it's the right move. So 5 whys, I think, is a really great way to navigate that. Is there anything else that you'd touch on how to make sure that these goals are meaningful along the way?
Yeah, I think you need to, another thing, like to touch on what Jake said, 5 whys is a great point. Also, if you're struggling to find meaning, then sometimes it's moving away from what you don't want. Sometimes that can really help, and I've used that in the past with myself and with hundreds of clients successfully. If they're like, I just don't know what I want, Nate, or I don't know what I want. It's like, okay, let's look at what you don't want. And then that can be a really good exercise. Like, I don't want to be overweight, or I don't want to have no energy. I don't want to feel like shit. I don't want to watch my mental health crash. I don't want to have a career I hate and that I resent, and then bring that into the household. And then you can look at those things where it's like, okay, cool, this is what you don't want. So what's the opposite of that? You want a meaningful career that you love. You want to be in great shape to have energy with your kids. You want to do, it's not hard to move away from that and look at the complete opposite. So if you're someone that's stuck, feeling like you don't really know what you want in 2026, but you know you want to move forward, a really easy exercise that you can do is just look at what you don't want. Look at what you don't want, get really clear on what the worst outcomes are, and let's just move away from them. Let's look at the complete opposite. And do you know what we can do now? We can create a plan like this today to actually put some things in place that are going to move us closer towards that. And I think that's really important. And then outside of that, it would be just having enough time to sit and think about it as well. Like in the day-to-day, I know that one's really simple for the listeners, and it's kind of like almost like a dirt eighth, but sometimes we're so busy in the doing, we don't have enough time just to pause, let the dust settle, and reflect on, okay, what do we actually want? What do we change? And we went through an exercise similar at the back end of the year. It's like, what's going to be different this year? And we already had our achievement roadmap all done, and Power 12s and all those things ready to roll, but still just that reflection in the quiet. If you got kids, try and have some time, whether in bed or where you can go and get a coffee by yourself, or maybe it's on a long run or something like that, where you're just with yourself and you can think about this properly.
The far extreme, if you've got the freedom and the flexibility to do so, is like take yourself away on a little mini solo retreat as well. Can be a great one. Obviously, there's some more logistics to it, but that's a really great way of like a couple of days without too much
fishing at 2 a.m.
Fishing, whatever that might be. So we did that last year, of then going out to a little cabin out the back of the bush and romantic little, I don't know whether it was somewhere between romantic or like potentially where like a serial killer would be. One of the two. If you were going back there in the dark, you'd be definitely
the most
checking the
romantic
locks.
murder scene. All right, let's give it to them. They've waited long enough.
So we're going to go from there. Once they've got those goals there in place, what we're looking towards is like, well, how do we make those things happen?
Yeah.
Because we've got to make this, like right now we're all in vision, and if they're all in vision and no traction, you're not going to get anywhere. You're a daydreamer.
Yeah.
If there's all traction and no vision, typically it's like, and this is where I reckon a lot of people probably sit in one or the other. Like there's either all vision, no traction, and there's like, oh, if I could get to here, it'd be really lovely. And then there's probably a lot of us slugging it out in the day to day without having a chance to like identify where it's going. And there's a little tip for you guys there if that's where you feel it. The feeling that you're probably going to experience is what you describe as burnout. Mm-hmm. So I think what we're looking towards here is we want to map up these things together, because you don't want to set these 2025 or 2026 goals. And like so many people have in the past, it's 3 weeks in, it's about to be February and you're already off track and you're not going anywhere.
92%.
92%.
92%.
So
that's mental. Like when you think of 100 people in a room, like I genuinely believe 100 of them would want to achieve the things they say they do, but then 92 of them aren't. Like that is slim odds.
Yeah. So, and then ultimately, like those, probably the difference between those 8 people and the 8 people doing it is they probably distilled down to some systems, some standards. They had a pathway that they actually took action on, as opposed to most people went, this will be nice.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's actually a way to distinguish this, to make it happen. And that's really what this is about. It's like the first step of the achievement roadmap is making something up. Mm-hmm. Making up, making sure it's meaningful, making sure it's going towards where you want to go towards. The next part is about making it happen. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. So this is Atomic Habits is a really, really great book on this. James Clear says, and the famous line that everyone refers back to this is like, you fall to the level of your systems, you fall to the level of your standards. So you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your standards. And the daily standards are a really great way for us to look at, is like, what do I need to do? Who do I need to be to get to that thing that I want to get to? And that's what we're looking at there. So let's hash this out as an example. Like one of mine from last year was to run a sub 4 hour marathon. We got the marathon done. It wasn't sub 4. It's going to get rolled forward into probably not 2026. I think I'm going to shift it into the 2027. It's all part of the vision of where we're going, but I think it's time for a few other things in between, and we might touch on that.
I'm going to stretch Jacob there and just say you can definitely just do both. There is nothing stopping you from doing both.
The very, very alternative ends of the spectrum, though. So rolling our way into this here is like, if that's my goal there, like how am I going to look towards my daily standards? Like where would you start if you were helping somebody on this step?
It'd be daily / like that comes into like the weekly rhythm as well. Like obviously you're not running every day, but it's looking at the things that you're going to achieve. So there's going to be some kind of training component. You need to have it mapped out. So it's getting clear to write you a running program, then obviously adhering to that. So that would be in that. It'd be a nutrition component and a recovery component. And they're your things you'd adhere to. Recovery is obviously like sleep, and nutrition comes into that and whatnot. But you're going to have them, and it wouldn't have to be complex. It'd be like, I've hit my program, and if it's a rest day, that counts. Like it's just, I hit my program, I've hit my nutrition targets. Say if you're someone trying to lose weight, it's like I hit my protein and my calories on that day because I need to drop 10 kilos to be in the position to run a sub 4 hour marathon, because it's going to be really hard work if I'm 15, 20 kilos overweight, harder than it needs to be. Then the recovery component is like, I have all these pieces in place. I just need to make sure I'm getting whatever you need, 9 to 12 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah, it'd be, it'd be nice with the kids.
But they're the things you can action. They're so achievable. And this is where it becomes so effective for me, because I know I can do that. And that's where the whole, like the 4 a.m. training or the Sunday with the runs, like I don't have to be special to do that. And I think for me, that's the coolest thing, is when I get to this point in the achievement roadmap, it's like all I have to do is do this. Like that's all I have to do. I just have to do it for long enough, and that outcome will most likely happen as long as some things don't come up out of my control. And then it's just, if it does, it's just more data to take back to the plan and adapt and pivot where need be. But it's funny because generally I think when people get to this point, it's like the boring work, but it's the most exciting because to me it seems the most simple. And it's just like you just do it or you haven't done it. And it's as simple as that. So you'd get down to that. To wrap it back around to your question, Jake, training, nutrition, recovery. But in an objective measure. It's like, did I hit my session? Did I hit my macros or calories, whatever you're doing? And did I hit my recovery, whatever that is for you?
Yeah, it should be like, essentially it should be a checklistable. Like, this is like really the best example of daily standards, and obviously not in this context, but like 75 Hard has had a really big, really strong growth and trend in the last few years, and essentially everyone gets out the framed one and it's literally like, tick each one of these boxes. I think there's 7 things or 8
You did
things
or you didn't.
every single day.
There's no grey.
Yeah. And the ultimate piece of that there is that they go with, like, because it's a daily standard for the 75 days, like, oh, you missed that one, go back to day one.
Yeah.
So that's a really great, like, I don't recommend 75 Hard for everybody.
Yeah,
you probably don't need to go that there, but it ultimately shows, like, people make incredible progress in that point because they stuck to us simple daily standards. And like some of those points is like, just follow like the 75 Hard is follow a diet relative to where you're at. It might be like some people just choose to go, I'm doing vegetarian for this thing. Not my recommendation. I probably wouldn't be able to last. I wouldn't last too many days. I'm out by day 2. But it would be able to give it, like, if that gives them what they're after and they're able to stick with it, and that's just the standards. I just don't eat anything that's meat for the next 75 days. They're ticking that box there. So you want to make it to where it's the standard is leading you to where you want to go, but it doesn't have to become more complex than you need it to be. Like, you don't need it to be like...
Simplicity is the key with these. If it's too complex or there's too much wiggle room, it's not going to work. And it needs to also have another thing to highlight on that, Jake. It needs to have a certain level of respect. Like, you need to give it a certain level of respect. And like, I know Claire jokes around and it's like, oh, you're so rigid, like with the 4 a.m.s or even with the Sundays and things like that. It's like, if you don't give those things you set, whatever they are to you. And again, this comes all the way back to the start of the conversation where it has to have meaning for you. There is no point of me telling you to train at 4 a.m. It has nothing to do with what you're doing down the track. But it's these things that you set. You need to give them respect, because if you don't, you'll negotiate them and then they're no longer a standard. And they're just some words on some paper from these 2 dudes you heard on a podcast, and then you just try and go again. 2 good-looking
dudes that you heard on a podcast.
Each year just a little bit better, like a fine wine, Jacob.
Entering my Jason Statham years.
You are, right?
I would say I would have said Clooney, but I've lost my hair now, so I'm biding Statham
like
now.
That's just too. I feel like, yeah, no, you're doing well, mate. You're doing well. I'd agree, but you have to, like, and there has to be a certain level of rigidity there, because if you're not hitting them, then you're not, like, it's just not going to happen. You can't just sit and hope that something comes around.
100%. So let's move our way off the standards. The next piece is like, what resources do you need? And a resource, like, actually, I'm going to leave this in your hands. Like, where this is the next piece is like, what do you need to help you get to where you want to be? So what counts as a resource in this way?
A lot of things count as a resource. If we use you as an example, Jake, like with the running and the marathon, it would be a running coach and a running program. And that could be a resource. Accountability, like all those things that a coach can offer, not just the expertise, that would be a resource. It could
be running shoes. Like,
it could be shoes. Could be some
I did start running
carbon plate.
When we did start the running, I did start in, I think it was a combination of Vans or Nanos. So it was a nice move to go to some Hokers, and we'll see what gets me over the line on the next ones.
Yeah, you should get my ones, the Super Blast or whatever they are. But yeah, you need, and you'll have things there. And I think this is where I also got a lot of value out of it, where for me, it was identifying that and spending time thinking of what it is, but also just not trying to run through walls on my own. Where it's like you can lean on people, you can get more resources, and it could be a coach, could be a mentor, could be as simple as a pair of shoes, it could be something, but it's really clear as well. I think that's the best thing. There's clarity. It's like, what's the gap? Is it an information gap? Like, do I need more information and then I can get resources around that? Is it skills that I'm lacking in this? So say, for instance, I want to go and get a property, then I'm going to listen to this podcast. Like, the podcast is a resource. This right now is a resource for you to do this.
This is property podcast that happens in this room.
Exactly.
Yeah. Shout out to the guys, John and Rach. We did meet them a few weeks ago.
Actually, a perfect example is whilst we're in this room, like Glenn's spending plan. Like, that is a resource for me to achieve what I want to achieve on my 2026, and I wouldn't be able to do it without that because I can't manage my money in my head. Tried to, it didn't work out too well, so now I actually have a structure. So that is a resource, and these things are really a pivotal moment in, I'd say, how fast you're going to get to what you want to get to if you can pick the right ones. Like, it's a really big push down on the accelerator.
Yeah,
And you and
success
I
loves
have noticed
speed.
that.
Like
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
there's definitely a case of like what does Dozer tell us? Who, not how,
Yeah.
in this case. And sometimes it is going to be just like go do this course, read this book, etc. Like some of those ones are going to be great, but sometimes it's just like if you can shortcut the process by finding the right person to help you get there faster, because they're going to already have the insights to teach you. They're already going to be able to do the things or like correct the skill
whole
of running.
job.
It's,
It is.
I might be just subtly pitching now.
Newstrength 101, and it's like there's two dads that have been in the industry since Jake's longer than me, like 16 or something, and for me it's just before I was 18. And it's like we've gone through this, we've made all these mistakes, we've led thousands of people to their outcomes. Like what that does is it shows you what's important, what's going to facilitate results, and then also just what's noise, and then understand how to actually hold people accountable. So what that does and why people are much stronger than us in less time is they just get this fast-tracked method where it's like, this is the pathway, this is from all these reps that have been done by this person, and that's why skills are so valuable. But you can also outsource skills.
So I think that's a perfect way to wrap up resources. And I want to keep this quick as well so we don't go too overboard. Our next steps are milestones. So that's essentially, we're setting big goals here. And it can be really hard to stay motivated for a big goal that's way out there in the future, or it can feel like it's way out there in the future. So we do need to chunk it down a little bit. We want to see, and we talked about this in one of our first episodes back, of like the milestones and mini goals along the way in the journey to where you're building towards. And I think this is something that we've done really well in training, but I think this was a good reminder to carry it over into all aspects of life as well, because there's so much stuff that we do learn in training and in the gym that is just part of the development and achievement process, that it's like you can carry those things over. But I think we think about it as like, if you want to run a sub 4-hour marathon, like you've got to then, you got to get to the distance, and then you got to start to bring the time, like bring your paces down and all these things. And these are really obvious and tangible when it's in a physical sense. But it's also like that in other things. You just have to learn how to break it down to that there. And the key piece of the milestones as well is we're going to tie rewards to it too.
Yep.
And that's the thing like I probably have more trouble with, because I'm like, the reward is getting the thing. Like that's what I'm excited about, the journey to get the thing. But you want to also try to create a feedback loop where it's like you get to recognize the work that you did. And that for us, we put this out to the team last year in one of the goals that we'd set, and we put a team target there, and we took the team to Mudgee. And we've talked about this before, and that happened to tie in well of that's where we were doing the marathon and all of those pieces that come alongside that. But that was part of, all right, cool, if you guys can get to the target, and we kind of, because we had to book the place to do the marathon anyway, but we said, if you guys can get the target, we pay for everything. And the excitement about that, the team nailed the target a few weeks out, and then it was like, sweet, everyone got the biggest steaks they could. We ate well that weekend.
The coolest thing, and I enjoyed that, and that was obviously a milestone to a revenue goal that we wanted to hit, and we hit that, but I enjoyed that so much more, and I think it's like, it's the belief building, and it's like we've gotten this far, then we're going to hit it. Like it's going to happen, and we have the things to do that. And for us, it was the team, it was the mission, it was the belief. But that's like such a core memory for me, and it meant so much more than when we ticked the revenue target. Like you and I had a fist bump and a well done, and there's more work to be done. But that milestone in between, I think what it does, like it gives you a second to pause, reflect, and also like absorb the belief. It's like,
absorbs the meaning of it as well. Like,
exactly.
One of the things that if you guys are in that natural, like maybe visionary and less on the traction side of stuff, by the time you're getting close to these goals, you're already going to have realized you're capable of more, and you're already setting it out in front of you again. So when you tick off the goal there, and this is the point of having these rewards stacked in here, is if you put the reward there, then you'll actually appreciate the work that you've done, the person who you've become in this journey, rather than just going, okay, we're on to the next one now. I know I've got more, forget about it. We're going to this next one here. And I think that's one of the lessons that I've had in the last year is like, all right, cool. It is important to still celebrate those wins along the way, because every time that you become the next person, you know who the next version is going to be. And it's easy to miss that there. And I think sometimes it can come across as probably like never satisfied or never never grateful, like, but probably what it is like never satisfied with like right now. It's like wanting the next thing because we know what we believe we're capable of.
Yeah, I think it's just
I think it's part of life. Like,
part of life and a healthy appetite for growth. Where it's because it's like you said, Jake, the reward once you can get to the point where you understand the rewards in who you're becoming and you can see that along the way. Don't get me wrong, I still feel like you and I could do better with the milestones and the pausing, and I think we are getting better at that. But I think once you understand it's the becoming that's the reward, then you do want to continually grow. And it's not that it's not enough, it's just that it's the process, and the growing is it's the thing, it's the growing. It's not like the end point of like, this is growth, this is the reward. It's like, it's the process.
Yeah.
And that's why you got to keep looking for more things to do and stay with the momentum. And the importance of this achievement roadmap is you can't forget one of those four quadrants. Like, we're bringing them all up together. So what it allows is for a balance to make sure you're not only in your physical pursuits, your relationships, your career, your wealth, all that, it can all come up together so you can achieve what's most important to you.
And I think like just wrapping up on the reward side of stuff and the milestones is the piece that comes to mind is the idea of like living in the gap or the gain. It's very, very easy to think about because you can put the next thing out in front as like how far away you are from that next thing or how far away you are from what you think you're capable of. The reward cycles and the feedback loops that creates, I think is really important to then help encourage you to live in the gains that you've already had and be able to appreciate those things. And I think that's really the best case of like why that's there, because obviously like when you do understand it is the person who you're becoming that you're wanting to be driven by and that you are driven by, it's still easy to just get caught in that cycle and not take a second to actually appreciate where you've come along the way there. So, and how do we set milestones? Let's just like to wrap up on that. Like, where would you set those there along the way for, say you've got that, the marathon one's probably pretty obvious. It's like you're increasing the distance or so. But say we've set a milestone or a goal of somebody that wants to lose 20 kilos. They want to be back in a healthy shape like they used to be when they were younger, so they can be a positive influence for their kids. Where would you set the milestones on the way to that there?
It would be like, it's again, it comes back to the individual, but a halfway point's always great. It's at a point, but this will vary from person to person, but it's a point where you know you're going to have to put in a significant amount of work to get there. It'll build belief, and there is some uncertainty and work involved that's going to happen to get there. So there's a reward based off of input. They can't just be a reward with no input. That's very important with these milestones. But it's not for me to say the amount of effort it takes to get to X. So it's going to be based off of those things. Like for Sarah and I this year, it's redoing the wedding or do it again because we're busy. Macy was young. Long story short, I pushed a pram around for most of the night. We've always wanted to do that. For us, the milestone's as simple as when we book the venue, we go and celebrate and have lunch there together. And like, it's just the significance of scheduling it in. But for another one where it will be, say it is 20 kilos, it's probably going to be 10 or 15 kilos once you hit that point. And then you can have a reward that can be whatever is meaningful to you, but there has to be a significance to it. It has to be significant, because if there isn't that significance there, then what it does is it dilutes this process. Same as the daily standards and the weekly rhythms and stuff. It's like there has to be a certain level of respect for these things, so when it does come up, it's meaningful.
And I think I'd add to on the milestones, it's probably just, it doesn't have to be like just a checkpoint on the list. Like if it is the 20 kilos, like what else is going to be supporting that is like something you're going to come across along that journey. And that might be, even though the goal might be losing 20 kilos, it could be that it's like, all right, well, alongside that, like I haven't ran 5Ks in 20 years or so. So then it's like, well, I'm going to put that because that's going to be part of the training journey. So that's going to be like one of the things that there's going to be hurdles on, say, a weight loss journey that you might not always be consistently dropping kilos, but you might be getting fitter in stages. And then you could go and really hone in on, okay, I'm hitting my daily standards, I'm doing those things, and I am doing my weekly run where I'm trying to build my way up. And I finally got that one ticked off there. That's not going to be just an exact, like, all right, I'm one step on the, like, I've got to this amount of kilos and then I've got that amount of kilos off. So there could be supporting players inside of that, building to the bigger vision for the year as well.
Yeah.
I think is a handy one to then not be obsessed with the numbers if that's exactly like where you're going in that one there. So Last piece on this one, the Power 12. This is Nath's screensaver on his phone. You got it at the moment still?
Yeah.
Yeah, show it to the camera.
I have all my texts and emails coming through here. Let me get rid of all my notifications.
So essentially what we're looking for here is we're taking these 12 goals, because we're going to set 3 in each space.
Wait, which camera is it on that one?
Yeah, that one there. So we're going to take it and distill it down to 12 goals that you can put up to somewhere where you can see it repeatedly. It's got meaning. We're going to put it to there where Nate's had it as his screensaver for the last 12 months, and then it's been there as a constant reminder. So he's got that as something to like trigger the vision of going, this is where I'm going towards. This is why I'm doing these daily standards, and this is the work that we're going towards as we build here. So you're going to take those 2026 goals that you've set for yourself. Generally, we try to set around 3 in each category, sets us up. So you've got your 4 categories, we've got 3 goals in each, and that kind of also works out that it's like you want to try to set it to you nearly ticking something off once a month.
Yep.
So you're in a rhythm where it's like all year I'm hitting these things. So that was probably one of my mistakes last year when we did it, was I set everything out, was like, this is all going to be like December stuff. And obviously it didn't end up playing out that way. Some of the things got ticked off earlier, but you want to try to have it where there is going to be something that's like, okay, cool, this is a first step, but it's going to go towards the bigger vision, and I can achieve that in the first quarter of the year.
Yeah.
And then I can have this one that's going to be a little bit further along in this other category that's going to be popping up here, so that you've in a rhythm of like, I'm always winning. Because when we've talked about it before, it's like when you're winning, it's easy to stay in momentum. Like momentum wins every time. So if you can start getting some wins, you're going to roll your way forward, and you're going to feel like the next one's closer. Versus if you've gone a patch of 6 months without ticking anything off there, you're probably going to be feeling stale and starting to question whether you're going to get to the things on the end, even if you have been doing the daily standards and you've been maybe not hitting those milestones at the rate that you wanted to. So we want to try to set it up in a way that it shouldn't be easy, but they should be able to be consistent through the year.
Yeah. I'd say if you're hitting your daily standards too, and then you're not chipping those things away, you probably have made a mistake through that process, and potentially adapt and revisit the daily standards. If you
that might be checking back to your resources too as well. And that's the point of having this set up. And obviously you guys will be able to see, if you guys hit us up on Instagram for a copy of this here, like you've got it all mapped out. And when you look at it on the actual form or on the little chart, you're going to have the resources, and that's a good little reminder of like, all right, I'm not on track for this. What do I do? And it's like, am I doing the daily standards? Yes. Well, what's the gap here? Are the daily standards not actually going to lead me to the end goal? Do I need to change those daily standards? Do I need to push, pull, or pivot on them to get on track? And that's where you go and check in with the resources. You go and check in with your coach, Nathan, go, mate,
another thing we'll do, just for the listeners on that note, is make sure we put in the Sunday planner template as well, where you can actually look at it and have a system there as well you can go through, and that framework to look at the week in review and look at the next one, and then that's a position where you can adapt if need be. I think that'd be perfect for them. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, and we've covered that on another episode, but the Separation Sunday system, we'll be doing that in person with everyone as well. Like, we'll cover all this stuff in depth in person back into January. So let's wrap up on this one here, Nath. You got any last little insights besides turn up to our workshop and I'll take you through in person and you'll have this nailed?
Yeah, come see us in person, and then we can inject some belief. But the thing I would like the listeners to take home from this is, if you want change, you're going to have to change some things, and the change is probably going to be hard, because what you're doing now, whether you like it or not, whether it's comfortable, it's probably somewhat habitual. So the change is going to require change. I know that sounds cliche, but it's just so true that you just can't get around that. So when you are moving in and using this framework, and you're going to go, okay, 2026, this is what's going to happen, and this is what I'm going to change. You're going to have to lock in for a bit of a roller coaster to make those changes. I think it's easy at the start of the year to have that heightened sense of, let's call it motivation, clarity now from this, after they've gone through it. And then we want to set those things, but it comes back to, like we said, the daily rhythms, the rituals, the things you do day in, day out, and you just need to understand that it's not always going to be fun. If you have that expectation on that, you're not going to actually adhere to it, and then you're going to find yourself this time, 2027, probably trying a different framework because you didn't think it worked, but realistically you just didn't do the work that you needed to do to get what you want. And you have to contribute to the goals you say you want, and this is an simple, not easy, but a very simple way to go about that. So I think this is more, I encourage you just to lean into the change. It's not going to be perfect, but it's most certainly possible if you can just stay consistent.
Perfect, mate. I think that's a great way to wrap up. So last of all, I've just checked. It's going to be January 31st.
Okay.
Is going to be our Achievement Roadmap session live in person at Newstrength. So I'd love for you guys, if you're listening in, for you guys to come along, join us. We get excited about this stuff. We get fired up.
This is everything.
This is going to be a great session. We'll have our whole coaching team on deck on that day as well, so that we can do some little breakout groups, so that you're not just getting presented with one person just being like, blab this out here, where you could have essentially listened to it in the podcast and got the same thing. So we're going to be there as one, not only supporters, but also challengers for you guys here. It's like, what I want you guys to take from this episode right now is like, this is your chance and you have permission to dream, and this is what we're trying to help you with. And we want you to believe in what you can achieve and have the roadmap to be able to actually go through and do that, and make sure that 2026 isn't a repeat of all those times in the past where you've looked at it and gone, I didn't make the most out of this opportunity and that I have right now, and I don't want to do that again. So we don't want that for you. If you guys are listening, we appreciate you, and we want to be here in your corner. And if you're listening in, come along to the workshop. We'd love to have you on board, and we'll be excited to share this with you and hopefully map out your Power 12 and your achievement roadmap and see you tick them off along the way. So that's us for the end of our first episode of 2026. I think we actually got through without dropping an F-bomb too, Nate.
Yes, we did. Yes,
we
did.
did.
I want
We're changed men.
Listen to more of them in the car with the kids. So we're doing better. 100%.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.